Oklahoma City Thunder versus the Minnesota Timberwolves. I am frightened for any team coming out of the
About what?
East because the
Oh, because the
Oklahoma
Wolves about
City
to pay
Thunder. Whoa, whoa, whoa,
that.
whoa, 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 whoa. The Oklahoma City
Oh no.
Thunder are absolutely scary to watch. They're so frightening to be an opposing player, team, coach. Watching them play defense is spectacular. And that is all game.
Hmm.
It, and they have an MVP player in Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. You have Jalen Williams. You have Chet Holmgren. You have Carson Wallace coming off the bench, right? You have Alex Caruso, right? You have Lou Dort. You
Hmm.
have these guys who are just fantastic, and they all play as one. I'm watching the game 7 versus Denver. Near the end of the second quarter, they went on like a 12-0 run within like 2 minutes. Not even 2 minutes. I think like a minute and some change. They literally at, Denver couldn't even get the ball past half court.
Yeah.
We're talking pressure. These boys were in passing lanes. Like the Michael Jordan meme in Space Jam where he has the long arms on the dunk.
Yeah.
It felt like they had that, but like all game. Like Jokic, anytime he goes into the post, double. Up, swiping at the ball, active hands. Up, now you pass it out, I'm in a passing lane. Oops. Every single time. They had a perfect game plan defensively to cook Denver in game 7, and they did. And that scares me because if they have time to game plan on defense specifically, because on offense, we know what they're going to do. They're going to rim run, they're going to use Shea in the pick and rolls and get to his spot, right? Draw fouls, shoot threes, kick out for threes. And, you know, it's the defense that worries me because the Knicks, right? I think that they can make the finals. I don't know if they've seen this kind of pressure. Ugh.
You're not wrong. And OKC has been playing this way all year. That's why they have the best record in the NBA. It's why they're regarded as the best team in the NBA with the best player. Um, Look, I mean, a lot of people like to clown the NBA saying that defense doesn't exist anymore. They're wrong. Sometimes most of the teams don't, but when you see a team that plays defense really good and really uniquely, like the Thunder do, most people envision defense as like big size and like quick rotation. Defense comes down to quickness, and the Thunder have mastered their quickness on defense and how they can put pressure on a ball, how they can attack players, how they can quickly rotate into double teams and surround players and trap them. It's very much like watching. It's very funny. It's like watching, a really good college team that usually has no offense, but they do, or like a really, really like up and coming like high school basketball team with all the trapping and all the pressure that they put on the ball. It's really fun to watch, and it's what makes them so engaging. However, I will say this, right? I liked their matchup with the Timberwolves because I think it's a good test for them in the playoffs. Last year they played the Dallas Mavericks, who were very similar to the Timberwolves in that they could stretch the floor, they have a creative scorer, and they have a lot of offensive output that they can produce and spread the ball around. Right? It's why they lost that series, and it's because they got out rebounded. Right? They were getting crushed on the boards. Right? What the Timberwolves do really well is they're able to spread the court, be able to find the open man, get off a good shot, and they're able to pass out of pressure and zones. And they're a really good rebounding team. Something that OKC can kind of struggle with sometimes. Right? So I do like this matchup for both squads to kind of have like collision course of two different styles. And I will say this about OKC comparative to the Timberwolves. OKC played the Grizzlies without John Morant. They played they push Jokic to a game 7, which I didn't think they should have done. I think you should have just forcing the Nuggets to a game 7 kind of like deters me a little bit because I just felt they were so much better than the Nuggets that they should never have even gone to a game 7 with them, right? So it shows that they're beatable and that they're vulnerable, and there are ways to counter them, right? And I think overall, I do like OKC in this matchup, but the Timberwolves beat off the Lakers, right? They dismantled the Warriors, right? So I think both they have a lot of momentum going for them. There's a lot of aura going on, for lack of a better term, with them. And so I think they'll come in with high confidence. I think you'll see in game 1 right away who sets that tone first, right? If OKC comes out with pressure and scoring and speed, it'll be very tough for the Timberwolves. If the Timberwolves start knocking down threes and getting open shots and passing the ball around and getting rebounds, it's going to be a long series for the Thunder. I think it's a very interesting matchup for both teams, and both teams are beatable. Both teams can easily dominate, take over a game. So I think it should be a fun matchup.
Yeah, I agree. And looking at the matchup, right? Anthony Edwards, first off, he's on a run because he's been called. He literally is like Nostradamus over here. He's calling everything before it happens. He's like, I want to play the Lakers and I'm going to beat LeBron. Yeah, I want. I've been wanting to play the Warriors. I want to play them over here. They didn't even want to draft me. I'm going to beat them, and he's doing it, right? So he has the highest confidence, and he even said like a year ago, "Yeah, I'm better than Shea. I'm better than him." So this is Anthony Edwards. I feel he's going to have to be what he's either going to put up or shut up, right?
Yeah.
Because you can't. What's the saying like? Your mouth is cashing checks that your game can't cash or something like that.
Yeah.
So Anthony Edwards, all that talking, all that bravado, is going to have to show up on the court. And you're going to have to go up against a really tough defense, right? They're going to have Alex Caruso on you, right? And Alex Caruso, it's tough. It's a tough matchup because he's a damn good defender. Right, you're gonna have guys switching on you constantly. You're gonna have guys rotating and trapping you. Right, so now you're gonna have to swing the ball a lot. Right, and when he does get those open looks and when he does get those one-on-one matchups, what do you do with it? Right, are you driving and kicking? Are you driving and slashing to the paint and drawing a foul? Are you shooting the open three, or are you just going off the dribble shooting a three? Right, and then what you have Julius Randle. He's a secondary playmaker for the Timberwolves. I like Randall. I like his game. I think it's in Minnesota. His game is way more. It's way more tailored to him and to how he wants to play and how he can be successful on the court. It's gonna be that defense. Oh God, it's in the back of my mind because you can beat the Thunder, but will you get the last laugh? Right. Are you going to win the series? Can I see the Minnesota Timberwolves winning 4 out of 7 in this series? That's what gets me because I can see Minnesota winning a game. Hell, I can even see them winning 2 or 3 games. But I don't know if they can win 4 against OKC. That's just me.
That's fair, and I do agree with you. I think having to beat OKC 4 times is a big ask, especially from this Timberwolves team. The thing with the Thunder is they just rarely have 2 bad games in a row, right? And for like the majority of the playoffs, and this is where it gets me, we've seen the Thunder struggle in a game. We haven't really seen that from the Timberwolves. In every game they played, there wasn't a sense like they were in like a losing position. Like you always felt they were in control of every series, even when they were down. Or they were when they were tied. So I think in that regard, I kind of give them a little bit of the edge in terms of like where they are mentally right now. But I think talent wise and defensively, you have to give it to the Thunder, which is why it's so unique. But I think what it comes down to is how Shea has to take over because we still really haven't seen that in the playoffs yet from him. he's had good games, but we still haven't seen like an elite takeover performance yet, right? Edwards has done that. Ant has done that. He's been there. He's dominated series. He's taken over games, and he's won a lot. He's won a lot. The Thunder, I think they're beatable. I'm not fully convinced on them yet. And I think the series will tell a lot. I think the last point I'll make before I pass back to you, the last point I'll make is Rudy Gobert is going to be such a big factor in the series because the Thunder have not faced anybody like him, and his defensive presence alone in the paint could be a big deterrent for the Thunder, especially if their threes aren't going down. It's going to be a big problem. And the Thunder again they're not a 3-point reliant team, so that's where they are beatable. So I think, and they don't have a big that can out rebound or outmatch Rudy Gobert. So if Gobert can still play his game and be a threat and be an absolute unit in the paint, it's going to be tough for them. And I think that could be a really big X factor going into the series and going why I could see it going further than 5, 6, maybe even 7 games, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to like matchups and all these teams, they find like one guy on the court that is like the weakest link. They're all talented, but they always always seems like they always pick on like one or two guys when it comes to like when the other team's playing on offense. I feel like they could try to single out Rudy Gobert, have him get switched on to Shea, take him out the paint. Right? I think that probably would be their game plan, especially if they're on offense, because Rudy Gobert, when he's in the paint, you don't want to go there, right? He could grab boards. He's very good in the paint. He's very good with his size. But on the perimeter, he's not the best. And granted, he's not a perimeter player, right? He's playing in the paint. He's 7'1", long arms, right? So I can easily see a world where they try to have Rudy Gobert out in open space the floor out so that there's clear lanes for these guys to be able to slash into the paint with very little resistance, right? Because if you have Shea, right, matched up with Rudy Gobert, Shea's cooking him. They have to send 2 to the ball now because then Rudy Gobert's just going to get flamed, right? And then, step back 3, right? So it's not who initiates the offense. It's kind of like who is going to be the guy that gets that swing pass. Because swing, boom, somebody's open for 3. Or swing, cut, boom, somebody's cutting to the rim. And Rudy Gobert's out on an island at the 3-point line because he had to guard Shea on a switch, right? So I want to see how the Timberwolves are going to be able to guard the pick and roll, because are they going to be switching? Do they want the bigs switching onto Shea? If Shea has the ball in his hands and he calls for a screen, are they just going to fight hard to not switch? And then Jaden McDaniels is going to probably guard Shea the entire game because he's just that good of a defender. He's going to have to fight hard over those screens because Rudy Gobert is not going to be there. He's not going to try to help. Are they going to hedge, right? Force him to the sideline. Then boom. Mm-hmm. Then how are the rotations for the Timberwolves now on defense, right? And are they going to be able to stop the slashing ability of the Thunder, right? I don't think so. I don't think their defense is there. And I think that the elite offense of OKC, they're going to try and find ways to exploit that, right? Just that little ways, right? Oh, if you hedge, boom, I'm kicking out, and boom, somebody slashing to the rim, and Rudy Gobert's not there because he had to guard me and hedge. Oh, if Rudy Gobert switches, I'm on an island, I'm cooking you. Oh, okay, if you want to play drop coverage, I'm just going to shoot a mid-range. That's it, right? So if the Oklahoma City Thunder can counter the Minnesota Timberwolves defense, I feel like this series is going to be pretty short, right? And also it's based on the adjustments that Minnesota is going to make, because in the playoffs, you're facing the same team over and over and over and over again. You have a lot more, I guess, time to make those adjustments and to be able to come out and look like a different beast in the next game, or even in the same game, but in the next half. So I would be very interested to see the Timberwolves' defensive game plan when trying to face OKC offense.
No, I think what you said is fair. I think at the end of the day, it should be an interesting series. I think it's going to be a completely different look from game one to game four, and I think that's going to be the most intriguing to see where we're at by that point.
Yeah. So predictions. How we feeling? I'll go first. I'm feeling this prediction. I'm gonna go OKC in five. In five. I just think they're too much. And I don't think that Anthony Edwards is the most dominant player, like as compared to Jokic. And I just cannot see a world where OKC just doesn't absolutely exploit the bigs of Minnesota and put them on an island and are easily slashing to the rim and putting ball pressure on Anthony Edwards. Because Anthony Edwards, he's had a couple tough games, right? Where it just hasn't the shot hasn't been falling for him, right? He's just not getting calls at the rim, and things just
Mhm.
haven't gone his way, and that could go downhill real quick when you're not only playing a team that's great offensively, but then are already going to play elite defense on you and aren't going to give you the best looks ever. So I think the OKC gets them out quick. I do think that the Timberwolves will steal one game though. I think Anthony Edwards is just going to have to find some way to will this team to at least one victory. So, there you go.
I'll say this. You are really convinced on OKC. I'm not, but I'm also not convinced on the Timberwolves either, which is why I'm kind of doing this based on talent and based on who I think has the better overall team. But I do not think this series will be short. I think both teams will make adjustments. I think both teams will struggle. And I think at the end of the day, I'm gonna go OKC in the end, but I think it's gonna take 7 games. I do think both teams will struggle. I think shot until I see it, until I physically sit down and see a game where I say OKC dominated this series or dominated that game consistently. I have to say that they're right now being very inconsistent as a team. Because the Grizzlies series was nothing to me. How they played against the Nuggets doesn't convince me yet that they're a totally dominant team. They are beatable many times. And, maybe six is the more fair answer, but I just feel like I could see Minnesota making adjustments and having really big nights and them playing really good defense and them out rebounding the Thunder just based on their size alone. And but I think at the end of the day, when it comes down to talent and overall better players and better systems and better defense, when it push comes to shove, OKC is the better team, and they will show that in some capacity, in some way during the series. I think at the end of the day they will win, but in 7 games. But it could go 6, but I will say 7.
Jess, the floor is yours. What do you think happens in this series?
Um, I don't think that Minnesota's going to be as bad as you think they're going to be, but I do think OKC has the upper hand. I'm going to say OKC in 6.
5, 6,
Now,
7.
this could be a curse
Again,
because we all picked the same team, and imagine just Minnesota just steamrolls them in like 4 games.
okay,
Just
well, we
blows them
picked
out.
the Knicks because we're biased,
That is true.
so that doesn't count.
Yeah.
But for this, I feel like I think you're right, but I think it's going to be in 6, not in 5. I think Minnesota's going to put up a fight somewhere.
Yeah. I was debating between
If
5
they
and
don't, then they're
6.
just going to get swept.
Yeah, you were like literally like you were you were talking like they were about to get swept.
But it's like, you know what
Yeah,
I
so I
mean? Like
mean,
when I watch OKC and the shit that they do on the basketball court, I'm like, who the fuck is doing that?
Yeah, but the thing with that, bro, is like they'll do it for like a good 3 quarters, and they'll just bomb out in the fourth, or like some quarter. In some games, they won't be as high as they were in the previous game. I just haven't seen it consistently.
Well, What do I know?
It could easily be Minnesota in 6 too. You know?
It could.
I kind of feel
It
I
could.
think OKC may just have like they have an edge, but it's not like a drastic margin. So
What do I know?
what do we know? What do I
What
know?
do I
I know.
know?